Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 324 of a year of change. Today I'm going to talk about something that I briefly touched on the weekend. And it's something that I started noticing late last week. Just sort of a sudden realization. And then I started thinking back further and further and thinking, okay, yeah, kind of it's... I've talked about this before where it's sort of one of those things where you don't notice that it's quiet until you stop and go, okay, that noise stopped. Same sort of thing. It just sort of basically pertains to how people respond to us. Now, being fat forever, people respond to us in a very different way than they do normal-sized people. No, I'm not even going to say average. Normal, healthy, weighted, sizey people. They do respond to us a little bit differently. And we've all seen it. We've all, gone to either a restaurant or a store or something. I'm not talking about just sort of like friends and family and stuff like that. Every now and then, you kind of do. If you haven't seen a friend in a long time and they sort of stop and look at you and go, Jesus, what happened? So you have that same sort of reaction. But generally when I'm talking about this, it's about people that we don't know. People that just sort of respond to us in sort of a store setting, because that's where I noticed this. And we've just gotten used to it, I think. Overall, we know that, we don't really try to engage them in a lot of conversation, and because they're, in some cases, it's just that they're preoccupied, that they're busy, and we aren't the kind of people that sort of prompts them to go, oh, this is a friendly person, I'm going to strike up a conversation with them, because that's not there. But also, they could be preoccupied just by the fact that usually it's just them staring. When you are 5'9" and 325 pounds, you are very sensitive to when people are staring at you. So generally it's, there is a different reaction there from people. And in some cases, it's just a matter of the person being an asshole and just, not liking fat people, which happens. So what I've noticed, though, is that, and this sort of jumped out at me late last week, when I just sort of realized, I'm not getting the same reaction from people in stores that I used to. And it's not a huge deal. It's not like everyone's going, oh, well, can I help you, sir? Trying to be super, super, super friendly or anything. It's nothing like that. And I'm not talking about, like, flirty stuff either. We talked about that before. Even if I was talking about it, I wouldn't have noticed it. This is something I noticed. And it's just that people are a little more responsive. They don't have that same sort of, I'm going to keep my distance. I'm not going to engage you. Just across the board in a lot of different stores, people don't, not that they're going out of their way or anything, but there's a difference there. There's a noticeable difference in how I'm being treated at stores. And mainly that's pretty much it. Stores and drive-thrus. For coffee, don't worry. I haven't been going to Burger King and McDonald's behind your back. Well, I have, but just for coffee. Anyway, by the way, Burger King coffee is shit. Oh my god, it's horrible. I tried it and won't go back. So anyway. So going through drive-thrus and stuff like that, just people seem to be a little bit friendlier. And I don't know. Here's where the problem lies. This is why I sort of wanted to bring this up. Because part of me, when I first noticed this, I started thinking back and going, okay, yeah, I haven't really had that same experience that I'm so used to with people either, just ignoring you completely, not making eye contact, trying to rush things through. They don't want to engage. And I've had the rude people, I've had the really ignorant people, I've had the people that have just sort of stared and I told the story as well. Would you like a spoon? I've told you that story. So, I'm not sure what happened, what prompted it. I think it was just in the drive-thru. I was going through getting a coffee, and everyone just sort of seemed to be, I don't know, it was just a good mood they were in or something, and it sort of dawned on me, I haven't had that weird reaction that I'm used to. And then I started thinking back, and I hadn't had it in quite a while, which sounds a lot dirtier than I intended. I hadn't had the reaction from people, in quite some time. So I started thinking back as to when this changed, and I can't really pinpoint a date and say, well, this is the day that I noticed it. It's just I remember the response that I got from people, 10 months ago compared to how things are now. And it's not everywhere, obviously. It's enough that I noticed, and that's the weird thing. So, of course, the first thing I think of is, well, they obviously hate fat people. But I'm still fat. I'm still obese. So it can't be that. So part of me is thinking, I mean, I think part of it in some situations, it is the fact that I'm more sort of average than I was before. That I look different, and so that sort of, they respond to that a little bit more. I'm not. There, I think I've explained it properly. In a group of 50 people, I'm not the fattest anymore. That's probably the best way to put it. Which sounds really mean, but that's how I always saw myself, and really, realistically, that's how it always was. So I've been losing a little bit more, and I'm sort of getting down. I'm still obese, but I'm getting closer to the average, which is still sad state of affairs. Here we go. We're going to try this again. Because I've sort of gotten to that point, I think that that response is a little more normal from people. But part of me, of course, is also thinking, is it really all them? Is it that I'm running into every single person in a store? Am I running into these people that are responding this way just to a fat person? And it simply can't be. Just the numbers alone, they would be astronomical. Trying to figure out the odds of that every single person that I've run into, just all of a sudden, because I'm not as fat, would just be a little more open, a little more engaging, a little friendlier, stuff like that. And I think part of the other half of that is that because when we start, geez, that didn't sound right at all. Anyway, let's start that again. I think the other half of that may be the fact that as we start losing weight, we feel better about ourselves. And so we are more likely to be engaging. Because when we go to a store, it's just second nature at this point. You don't involve anyone. You don't engage anybody. You want to get in and get your shit and get out. You don't want to hang around. You don't want to strike up a conversation with people because it's just that self-consciousness is there. And it's so strong, and we've had it for such a long time that when we start losing the weight, even if it's only 5, 10, 20 pounds, whatever it is that you've lost, you do feel better about yourself. There's that sense of accomplishment as well. So you just seem to be, in a better mood in general than you were before. You weren't going to be all sunshine and farts and everything else. I should have clarified, unicorn farts. Those are the happy ones. So it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows and unicorn farts all the time. But in general, we feel better. And I think that sort of comes across in our attitude with people, so that when we go to a store or go to a drive-thru or something, that we are a little bit more engaging than we were before. And so I think part of that response is them reacting to us. And so I think that part of it is, and the more I think about this, I think it's a smaller part. I was going to say portion, which is why that came out port. A smaller port. A small part of this response that I'm getting from people, I think, is weight related. But when we look like this, everything is weight related. Every response from people, every comment, people could hear a joke, 2 blocks away and start laughing. We assume they're laughing at us. There's a paranoia that goes along with that. And it sort of bleeds into our relationship with people when we start engaging, strangers especially. With your friends and family, it's not quite the same. But with even coworkers, and especially strangers, though, I find that our reactions are a little bit different. What's the word I'm looking for? Not experience. Our interaction. There we go. That was driving me nuts. Our interactions with these people, which sounds racist, but our interactions with these people are different now, I think, for the most part, because we are responding differently. We aren't, as introverted. We aren't sort of keeping everything bottled up and saying, okay, don't make eye contact, go in, get your shit done because they're making fun of you. And this might just be me. This paranoia. I can't talk at all. This paranoia might just all be in my head. Well, it probably is all in my head, but I think it's shared by a lot of people. I think we all have it in some way, at some level. So when you're going into a store, for example, and you think, okay, I need to get this, 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 and this. You go in, you get your shit, you don't talk to anyone, you take your stuff, you go to the checkout, and they say hi, and you go, and then you go. But when we start losing weight and we start feeling better and we have a little bit of confidence, even if it's unjustified, and saying, I feel better, I look better, I'm just in a better mood all the way around, I think people respond to that. And I think a large portion of people's response to me now is just because I'm a little more engaging. I'm willing to say hi to someone and say, okay, well, thank you very much. Have a good day. Instead of just going, taking my stuff and going. So, and it doesn't take much, really, for me to obviously to notice this. So I think some of it is the weight. I can't deny that. The people do respond differently to people that are fat. We've talked about that ad nauseum, so I won't get back into that, but we've seen it as well. We've seen how people respond to someone who's fat compared to someone who's thin. It sort of goes, I suppose, the other way as well. Too fat, too thin. Unless you're really sort of the average or at this stage below average, everyone, then yes, you do get treated a little bit differently. Which is not to shit on these people for doing it, because we do the exact same thing. Everybody does it. It's hardwired into our brain, so we have to accept it. But I think our response to people when we go up and we start engaging someone and creating a different type of interaction with them, using that word again because now I remember it, then I think that contributes to it as well. I think that changes, and I think that's probably why I noticed this. And it's been a while. I'm trying to figure out, is it all the weight? Is it just, me? Is it that I'm a little more outgoing? And I'm not. I'm not one of these, like, hey, everybody, let's all be friends and hug and call me every 10 minutes because we're besties. I'm not that kind of person at all. But in general, when I think about it, I'm not as sort of, I don't want to say introverted again, but it's the right word for it. If I'm going into a store, if the checkout person's there, I'll say hi to them. I'll talk to them and just say, oh, no, good day, bad day, whatever it is. Trying to make small talk, which I'm way out of practice on because I've never done it. And I think a lot of us are like that we go out, we get our shit, we stay home, and I think that sort of contributed to our lifestyle. But I would be interested to know, if my attitude was the same now as it was a year ago, even with the weight loss, if it would make a difference. And I think it might make a bit of a difference in places here or there, but I think for the most part, it's just that, my response to people or my initial reaction, just, or when the introduction, however that first impression that you make on someone, I think that has changed dramatically. And it's something that's just been sort of subconsciously, because I haven't gone out of my way to say, all right, today I'm going to be friendly. And I'm going to say hi to this person and see how their day's going because I sincerely care, because I really don't. No one does. When they say, how are you doing or how's your day, they don't care. They want you to say fine and move the fuck on. We all know this. But being able to at least engage someone back and forth that way, I think that's what's contributing to it more than the weight loss. But I don't think I would have that without the weight loss. I think that my attitude would have stayed the same, or my personality, I suppose. Personality has pretty much stayed the same. It's just, my willingness to actually engage other people in conversation. And I'm not starting up conversations with strangers. It's just during that interaction. I'm just going to keep using that word. Sucks. Anyway. But yeah, so I know that part of it is because of the weight alone. But I think a lot of it is just how we've changed personality-wise. Or psychologically, there we go, it's a better word, instead of personality-wise. Let's try to keep things scientific here. How we've psychologically changed and our emotional responses to other people and how we engage them. I think that is probably the biggest contributing factor to how I've been able to notice that this change has happened. So I think it's probably like 80-20 or 90-10, somewhere in there. But it was something that I thought was really interesting because I hadn't noticed it until it just really jumped up in my face. And then I just sort of thought back and went, I'm trying to pinpoint a date. But I think it's just sort of getting better and better. And whatever this was, whoever it was that actually said hi to me or have a nice day or whatever it was, or engaged in this conversation, just sort of stood out. And I thought, that's weird. That never happens to me. So I think that's probably what prompted it. So they were having a good day and I was having a good day and it sort of worked out. Everything was fine. Anyway, that was it. I have no answers for you. I wish I did, because it would be nice to be able to look at it and say, okay, this happened, so this happened, and then this happened. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure anyway that it's, how I'm engaging the conversation, how I'm starting it, or whatever you want to call it. I keep using engage, and I don't like that now. I'm using it too much. I need a better vocabulary. How I'm starting off an interpersonal relationship. Here we go, with a stranger for a short-term interpersonal relationship. Yeah. Anyway, whatever you want to call it, that little interaction. I'm going to say it again. How I'm starting that off, I think, is causing them to sort of reciprocate. And I think that's where it's coming from. But I really don't think that I would be starting it off the same way if I was still 325 pounds. Because it's not in my personality. And it still really isn't. But I find that I'm not, every interaction isn't me going, God, they think you're too fat. They think you're too fat. They think you're too fat. Get out of the store because they're going to talk about you. As soon as you leave, they're going to go, did you see that guy? He was huge. And I'm sure that some of them still are. That's not in dispute because I'm still huge. But I'm less hugerister than I was a year ago. So I'm pleased with that. So even just being I'm still above average, technically. And I'm still obese. That's not in denial at all. But at least I'm not always the fattest person out there now. Which does sound kind of mean because it makes me feel like I'm not the worst, but I'm going to be selfish and say, you know what? It's a good feeling to have that for the first time in a long time that I'm not the fattest person that they're going to see today. I'm going to be one of the fattest, but I won't be the fattest. So, yeah. Anyway, that was it. I'm going to start repeating myself, which I probably have already done. But if you've run into something like this, if you've had something that sort of jumped up at you and you realize that interaction has been different somehow, it might be that. It might be the weight. It might be your personality. It might be the confidence that you're getting because you've lost weight. It might be a whole slew of things. Or it might just be, that you lucked out. But I think at the very least, we should look at it and say, you know what? It's a positive thing. This is going to sound out of character. There we go. I can't think of any words today at all. A little bit out of character for me, but something good like this, I think, is something that we can keep going, or that we should keep going. I should probably start over. I'm not going to. It's been too long now. But it's something that I want to continue on because it's just in general. I'm not finishing every day with a smile and my nose is itchy. And I'm not finishing every day by going, oh, this was an awesome day. And everyone was friendly and there's birds singing and sunflowers flowering and all the other stuff. But I'm not, ending my day as well, just dwelling on some situation where I figure they were making fun of me and I know they were and I'm going to dwell on this for 3 days. So I don't have those moments either. And I think more than anything, that's much, much more helpful to the weight loss than, the exercise and the dieting and everything else. I think it's maybe not more important, but it's a huge chunk of it. Not being able to, not sort of staying in that same mindset of, I'm still fat, I'm still ugly, what's the point? I'm still fat. I understand that. I'm still fat, I'm still ugly, I'm not worrying about that, but I'm getting better. And that's the main thing. So, anyway, yeah. This has gone all over the place, so I'm going to end this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.